And so I love that about the Broncos. Another thing my question to Broncos fans is, are you aware that horse that's 40 feet tall outside your stadium has a penis, a big dick? And do you ever think about what they were thinking when they were like, should we put a dick on this horse? Kirk Cousins destination. Some people are asking about the Kirk Cousins destination. We went through a couple scenarios, and I think you can divide them into two categories: cap feasible and cap difficult. Okay, because like obviously, although the salary cap can be manipulated like a mug in today's NFL, you still gotta work it out. And some of these destinations that I really like, there's some work to be done. And some of these destinations that I don't like so much, people are like penciling them in there. Like one of them I don't like is Minnesota. You know, like he's been great there. Honestly, he has. But it's boring to me. I want to see a shakeup. I want to see Kirk somewhere else. And I want to see O'Connell with somebody else. Like I want to see them turn the page and start planning for the future, whether that's keeping Kirk in and having him for a year as the bridge guy. I don't know if he'd do another 1-year deal type thing. He'd be great for a guy in the locker room, in the meeting room, you know, and he could take the pressure off that guy early. You look around that division, these other teams are starting over, right? Whether it's Caleb Williams, whether it's Justin Fields, he's a lot younger, whether it's Jordan Love, like, you know, you don't want to be the team that's replacing a veteran quarterback in a couple years, you know, unless you think that he's the guy that can win you a Super Bowl right now. And I'm not, who's to say he couldn't, you know, other than like past performance. And I don't mean that in a disparaging way. I just mean there's nothing yet that's telling me that I feel like they're a favorite if Kirk Cousins comes back. They're frisky, they're dangerous. I think they got a hell of a coach. I think they could play for the division depending on what they do. They got to resign certain guys, right? You know, Justin Jefferson's contract's coming up, Hunter's contract's coming up. So there are issues, but this is the most realistic outcome relative to all the other ones. If you look at like the way Vegas sets the odds, the Vikings are the odds-on favorites. So this could be a whole lot of nothing. It could be just me filling my mailbag pod with something to talk about. But boy, isn't it fun to imagine quarterbacks in other uniforms. That's like one of my favorite things. I love seeing players change teams. And most times veteran quarterbacks changing teams in free agency, it's not like a viable way to build. But I do think when you look around this year, there are some teams that could use a Kirk Cousins. I think there's some unique situations. You know, like the irony of Peyton Manning cashing in on Super Bowl in Denver is by the time he did read, and correct me if I'm wrong, you know, he wasn't the same guy. You watch all the Broncos games. I mean, their fucking historic offensive year was the year they got curb stomped by the Seahawks. So, you know, sometimes just having the veteran presence in the room, having that guy, you know, he doesn't have to be Tom Brady in Tampa. And by the way, Tom Brady in Tampa was not Tom Brady in New England. So I think sometimes, you know, there's a case against bringing in a veteran quarterback if you think that's the last piece. But there's also a case for it. And, you know, like, I don't think Kirk Cousins and his skill level is wildly dissimilar from a 2015 Peyton Manning, except for he's better. And maybe he doesn't have what Peyton has between the ears, but he's physically off an Achilles. If he can get that thing right, he's still got some good football in him.
That Super Bowl year when Peyton won, a lot of people were calling for Brock Osweiler to start because Peyton was throwing so many picks and the offense was looking so shitty. Brock had like 1 to 2 games that he looked kind of decent, but Peyton obviously led him to the Super Bowl after that. But you're right. Having someone in that spot who at least knows what they're doing is a huge jump for the entire team.
Yeah, just having an adult in the room, a guy who's been there before, who's won, like objectively, Kirk Cousins, he's not going to dominate these conversations we're having about Burrow, Allen, Lamar, and obviously the gold standard Mahomes and anybody in that echelon. Like, we don't talk about him that way, but I respect what he's done as a winner and as a teammate and as a quarterback. Like, legitimately, I think in the beginning people hated Kirk Cousins because he wore a lot of plaid. I'm just being honest. Like, and I think like he kind of came across as kind of corny to some people. I'm not saying he is, but people make easy targets of certain quarterbacks. And, like it's almost like in this day and age, how memeable you are is directly correlated to how short the leash is on our reaction to your performance. I mean, it's like the Russell Wilson thing. We turned on him, and then we want to turn back and jump in his corner with Peyton, but we made a lot of fun of that guy. Kirk Cousins is playing, but I digress. Kirk Cousins is still playing good football if he's healthy. I look at certain teams. I look at the Commanders. They are cap feasible, but if you're at the Commanders, you're probably thinking about a rookie quarterback. Also, if Bieniemy's the coach, because here I have in my notes like McLaurin, Dotson, possibly Bieniemy. Defense is kind of just meh, as we saw late in the year. It's hard to imagine Bieniemy calling Kirk Cousins a motherfucker to his face and Kirk like taking that well. He just seems like on an index of quarterbacks who would take the word motherfucker to their face. Well, I'm not saying I've heard Bieniemy call somebody a motherfucker, but that's kind of his rep, and I got no problem with it. All right, I like that stuff. Okay, you can call me a motherfucker. Motherfucker can be a term of endearment. Don't forget that, Matt. You would not like Eric Bieniemy. You were like Kirk Cousins in the staff meeting. You called us some hardworking motherfuckers. That's what Kirk would say. You called me a stupid. That's what Kirk would say. Eric, you called me a stupid motherfucker, or something like that. The Pats have written down here it'd have to be a Godfather offer. That's what Nolan said, and I agree. All right, the Raiders. I could see it, sure, but I also think they're going to draft somebody, and I really like Daniels there. I think that could be a lot of fun. Atlanta, I actually like this as a destination for Kirk Cousins. You look around the division, a retread just won that division. Okay, it's like the division of found items, of like retreads of opportunity. It's the land of opportunity. It's not the Freedom Caucus. It's the Rehabilitation Caucus. It is,
and he
like,
has he's got a bunch of toys down there that he could play with.
Yeah,
A lot of untapped potential.
Bunch of untapped potential. All you got to do is be better than Ritter, and people are going to be like, all right, good. So the bar isn't high, and I don't mean this like, again, I'm going to talk to the Falcons fans in a little bit about that and some other things, but like, I don't think you're following greatness. All right, so it's not tough in that respect. I think you have weapons. They are in a similar cap situation to the Vikings, like, right? It's kind of the same thing. So, I mean, I like Atlanta. They're like plus 600, I think the odds were. I don't know, take that for what you will. Cap difficult. I would say Steelers, but I like it. I like the Steelers idea a lot. Like, I really do. Cowboys was an interesting one that somebody put on this list. I think the bigger problem is like, where does Dak go? Because you got to move Dak first. I think Miami is a name that keeps coming up, or a city that keeps coming up. The Dolphins, I know how good this team is, and that's what's confounding to me. And through the last couple of years, when you sense frustration in my voice and it sounds personal or whatever you want to make it, there's two sides to it. Number one, I hate being right and being told I'm wrong. And number two, the team is fucking really good. And I think you got a really dynamic scheme, and you've got some great players, and I hate to see them not cash in on this window. I think a Kirk Cousins could help them. They got cap space issues. Part of that, 23 mil on the books with Tua. Like, I don't know. Like, we were going through it earlier. Where would you trade Tua to give him another opportunity somewhere? Maybe somebody else wants another look. I don't know how long that list is. And so, like, I don't think you get necessarily cap relief there. There are some guys you can cut there. I'm not going to name any names, but there are guys you can cut there. It's just not something I like to do, is play like Monopoly money with people who might actually get cut. Not this early in the off season. So Cowboys are interesting. Dolphins are interesting. Dolphins are kind of my dark horsey team. I also think, like, look at everything the Dolphins have been able to accomplish, and they don't move the pocket. They aren't capable of moving the pocket, not traditionally. Kirk Cousins, that old plaid wearing motherfucker, can run sideways with the best of them. He really can. And I think, again, going back to my point about Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, and these are different guys, but like, let's say some teams that came up short with a veteran quarterback and didn't get the ultimate prize. I'm sure there's some teams somewhere down the line that was like, hey, we're satisfied with the run we got out of this guy, because it's an improvement just by having an adult in the room. And I don't mean that, I'm not calling previous quarterbacks in any of these locations, children or anything. What I am saying is that Kirk Cousins is a respected veteran in this league. And he's played at a high level. He's played in the playoffs. He's won a playoff game. Not an easy thing to do. Whatever you're looking forward to this football season, there's one thing that pairs well with every great moment, and that is an ice-cold Miller Lite. Whether you're at the stadium playing fantasy football or watching the game at home or at the bar, Miller Lite is here to make your football season taste like Miller time. From kickoff to the clock runs out, you can't go wrong with a Miller Lite in your hand. It's the only light beer with a taste worthy of our national obsession. Because what's the point of having beer if it doesn't taste like beer? I go to Dirty Nelly's every weekend. Sometimes I'm prepping for the show at the bar on Saturday night, watching a little college football, getting ready to lay out our Miller Lite moments. I like to have an ice cold Miller Lite right next to me. And the folks at Dirty Nelly's, they know when I get there to have my ice cold Miller Lite. It's got only 96 calories and 3.2 carbs for 12-ounce serving, with a smooth taste and a crisp, clean finish. You get the taste you crave without the calories. So this season, crack open a light beer that hits your taste buds so hard you feel it in your heart. Make it Miller time all season long. Get Miller Lite delivered right to your door. Visit MillerLite.com/greenlight. Or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. 96 calories and 3.2 carbs for 12 ounces. Who are these actors as NFL players? This is from Josh Kutchner. Kutchdog. That's a great question. And I encourage y'all to ask this question again with different actors. I would love to do this again. This is a lot of fun. Okay. The actors. So Matt, you have a second to think about it. Jack Nicholson, Bruce Willis, Paul Rudd, and Will Ferrell. Okay. By the way, I know what you're thinking. Sixth Sense. I just wanted to throw this out there. Sam Darnold's actually Haley Joel Osment because he sees dead people. It's the ghost thing, right? So just as a sidebar, I think Sam Darnold is Haley Joel Osment. But then Haley Joel Osment grows up and plays some great roles that they're not coming to mind right now, but that'll be San Francisco in a year. Okay. So Bruce Willis is the actor in question. Universally loved, right? Stop me when you disagree, but universally loved, universally respected, even more so after his career, right? He's funny. He's got warmth and humor. That's why they gave him the John McClane role, because he actually was like a little bit funny and could kind of keep things light. They wanted a meathead, but one that could like kind of bring the temperature down in the room. And I think that's what makes him great. This guy had a great run, late 80s into the 90s, never won an Oscar. And that's why I don't watch the Oscars, because people like Bruce Willis don't win Oscars. Okay. But I do watch the AFC playoffs and I do watch Super Bowls. And I do watch Die Hard. I watched all 5 of them. There was a guy in the late 80s, 1988, Die Hard comes out, starts a great run for Bruce Willis. 1988, there was a certain team in the NFL that won 6 divisional championships in a row. And that team is the Buffalo Bills. Now, there were 5 installments of Die Hard. There were 4 installments of the Super Bowl for Buffalo. Four Falls, right? And obviously Die Hard is a much more enjoyable experience. Well, I don't know that for John McClane, Die Hard's very fun at all. You're either getting the shit kicked out of you by a bunch of Japanese businessmen. Isn't that what happens in one of them? And then it's the Germans. Another one is like just a bunch of people from different continents want to fuck you up. But here's where it gets weird. Here's where it gets really weird. You ready for this? People don't give Jim Kelly enough credit for his run in the USFL. It's like not enough people saw it. Not enough people talk about it. Not enough people talk about Bruce Willis's performance in Unbreakable.
Great film.
I think Bruce Willis is Jim Kelly.
Yes.
I think Bruce Willis is Jim Kelly. I think Bruce Willis is Jim Kelly, one of the most revered, respected quarterbacks of all time. Maybe not talked about as one of the greatest, but action-packed. The offense was called K-Gun. Bruce Willis definitely had some guns in his movies. And I just want to throw this out there while we're doing quarterbacks. Nobody asked, but I think Phillip Rivers is Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood has 8 kids. Also, he's a gunslinger. That's literally what Phillip Rivers is. I also think about a lot of Clint Eastwood's movies as being, and I know, don't get mad at me, older guy, but I think a lot of them are the same movie. Okay? You've seen one of them cowboy movies. You've seen them all. Okay? If you've seen Phillip Rivers in a 4 p.m. spot, losing tragically in the fourth quarter, you've seen them all. Both gunslingers, both have a lot of kids.
He's got to become a coach now because like Clint was an actor and then became a director.
And you know what? He's probably already fucking coaching. So
he's got a lot of kids to coach.
Coaching his kid. Yeah, he's coaching his family. I
was going to say Rich Gannon for Bruce Willis. Like the bald version of Rich Gannon, more just kind of looks like him. Talented guy.
But you're just casting guys. I like
a little
that.
bit.
Okay, if Bruce Willis had to play a quarterback, I like Bruce Willis as Jeff Garcia. I like Bruce Willis as Josh Dobbs. I like Bruce Willis as Brian Hoyer later in his career. How many bald quarterbacks can you name? I like Bruce Willis as either of the Hasselbeck brothers. Okay? All right. Let's talk about Jack Nicholson, because this is an easy one too for me. It wasn't clear in the beginning, but once I wrote it out, okay, the guy smoked 155 joints on the set of Easy Rider. You know, he was like kind of a method actor, like for real. He was so crazy he'd get his brain to like neutral is the way he described it. You know, it's something I can't even comprehend doing this. Like he was on the set of The Shining scaring the shit out of people between takes, like whipping an axe around, saying axe murderer and shit like that. Like there's people like getting cups of coffee and this guy's like off the deep end. Speaking of my favorite Jack movie, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which I just watched in the last couple years. But this guy was, he was literally living in a mental institution at that time for, you know, method acting purposes. He's crazy. He likes to be crazy. He also is known for dark themed portrayals of neurotic characters. This is Lawrence Taylor. Is he not Lawrence Taylor? I mean, nobody gets into the character of being an NFL player like Lawrence Taylor, and it's method acting. One of the best ever. Jack, one of the best ever. Stupid talented, stupid great, stupid accomplished. Same thing with Lawrence Taylor. Just gold standard. So I like Lawrence
and
Taylor.
a great actor himself.
Any Given Sunday. He was method acting.
Yeah, right. I was thinking Joe Namath for Jack Nicholson. Like just kind of like oozing cool. I'm casting him. Yeah. Okay. He could totally play Joe Namath, like a younger version of Jack, like Easy Rider Jack.
I'm trying to think of Easy Rider Jack. I kind of like him playing Browning from the Bengals. You know? My sweet now, Joe. All right. What's Browning's first name?
Jake.
Here's Jake. All right. Paul Rudd. Ready for this? This is a tough one because I'm not going to compare him to a quarterback. That was getting boring. And I'm not saying that this player they're the same. What I'm saying is they remind me of each other. Okay. So Paul Rudd, and I'm not diminishing his work. I think he's one of the best comedy movie dudes of our generation, period. But he did play most of his key roles during one of the greatest runs ever with Judd Apatow. And, he's been in some other movies and held his own. He's been a good player in some other movies, but the best run was with Judd, like those two. It was great. Also, short, hot guy, Danny Amendola. I'm sure Judd would be, or, Paul would be like, well, I'm one of like the 5 best, funny guys of our generation. And Danny's not one of the 5 best receivers of our generation. But it's a short hot guy thing, which is it's a great thing to have short hot guys for friends, because like you're not threatened by them. Like I know my wife probably thinks Danny Amendola is hot. Like I know my wife probably thinks Paul Rudd's hot, but I'm not worried about it. I'm 6'3", If she leaves me for Liam Neeson, we got a problem. I will find him. You know what I mean? But the short guys, I'm not saying this pejoratively. It's just it's not as threatening. I guess that's the lead here, is that he's short and hot like Danny Amendola, and did his best work with Judd Apatow, who's like Tom Brady in the analogy.
There's this thing on the internet about Paul Rudd never aging, kind of like Tom Brady never aging.
Or like Howie Long.
Yeah. Howie Long. There you go.
Yeah, I listen. I think I put Howie Long's genetics up against Tom, and I'm not talking about football genetics, but what I am talking about is just the glow that cat has. He's 62, 63 years old, never done anything to his face.
Could kick Liam Neeson's ass.
And could kick Liam Neeson's ass. That's when you start getting in trouble. The hot, tall guys that can kick your ass, you don't want those guys around. You don't. You really don't. Good thing Kyle's ugly.
He's not ugly.
He's hot as shit, isn't he, Matt? Oh, that's good. I reeled Matt in. One of the mailbag questions was, ask Kyle if he knows that Matt's in love with him. All right, so he looks like Alan Richardson. Look like the guy from Jack Reacher, Kyle.
He could play Reacher. Like, it wouldn't be crazy.
No, it wouldn't be. But we were going so look-alike, and then you just went Kyle Long, Alan Richardson. If you want to cast Kyle, I always say this: he'd be perfectly cast in the Indiana Jones, Raiders of the Lost Ark. No, it's the Nazi one.
Raiders of the Lost Ark.
Where he backs that Nazi into that propeller. That'd be Kyle. That'd be the perfect role. All right. And then Will Ferrell's the last one. Own the 2000s, okay? And after a breakup, it just hasn't been the same. He's still that dude, but there was a bad breakup. And maybe I'm misremembering this, but the Randy Moss breakup in Minnesota wasn't great, was it? So I kind of feel like it's Randy Moss, because when you're around Will Ferrell, not that I've been around Will Ferrell, but you're like, holy shit, that is one of the funniest people in history. Like, it. But Randy Moss, like he moved on to New England. He was just as funny, just as fucking awesome, cartoonish on the football field, but they didn't win the whole thing. And it's not his fault.
If Will Ferrell was still on SNL, imagine this weekend, he would be doing Jason Kelsey in the box.
It'd be incredible. But the point is, like, things just change. And like, I thought, like, what might have been if Adam McKay and Will Ferrell never gotten a big thing? What might have been if the Vikings never broke up? I don't know. Somebody who knows the situation better than me is going to explain perfectly why this is a stupid point, but it's an exercise that's not real. Okay.
I was thinking
actors to football players.
I was thinking it could be Matt Ryan for Will Ferrell, like for the same reasons you listed. 2000s, really best seasons with a partner, and then split and didn't have his best work after the fact. I'm
going to be real. Very few quarterbacks have had a run like Old School, Step Brothers, Elf, you know, Wedding Crashers, whatever else he was in. He was in like for 5 years there. It was like he owned
Everything
every
he touched.
one-liner.
Yeah.
I thought about Peyton Manning, but Peyton Manning didn't have a breakup. He might be closer to a Peyton Manning if I'm being if you take the breakup thing out of it. Like, because you got to Peyton Manning and Brady for that matter. I also think Peyton Manning is comparable because Peyton Manning is really fucking funny.
Yeah.
So I throw him in the hat there. Okay, that was a good question. It's a good question, Josh. It's a good question, Josh. Make Little Caesars the official pizza sponsor of the NFL, part of your game day. Order online during the Pizza pregame all day on NFL game days and Pro Bowl Sunday and get ready for some football and fun. Choose your favorite Little Caesars pizza or pick the toppings you crave. Either way, you win. And speaking of winning, everyone scores with convenient delivery or our in-store pizza portal pickup. So grab some friends and enjoy a few slices during the game. Put some in the fridge. I like cold pizza. Now for the final question. That's going to take about 15, 20 minutes, guys. Buckle up. The question was, when I was a player, and now really more than anything, like, what are the teams I wish I played for, or the fan bases I wish I played in front of, and what do I think about fans in general? Like, you know, like just talk about what I think about fan bases. And I think that's a brilliant exercise because I feel like I got to check in with some of y'all. And I also think you never hear, like, we don't really understand fan bases. My understanding of a fan base was how tough was it to play at a stadium on a given day when I was a player. And now it's when you put out a YouTube video, how fucking annoying are these fans? Like, is there a personality that a fan base has? And some fan bases I have given personalities on faulty data, dude. Like, you know, like a fan base's YouTube presence isn't an exact science, dude. You got to understand a fan base. You got to be in the shit with that fan base for a while. Nevertheless, I'm going to give you, acknowledging everything I just said and acknowledging that, like, what do I know? Like, I'm going to tell you, if it interests you, what I think about you. And, you know, I'm going to address each fan base. And I'm going to answer this question about which team would I have wanted to play for. I'll be quick on some teams. I wrote lists of like pros and cons, okay? And I'll tell you if it's one of the teams that I actually ever had a thought about playing for. So the New Orleans Saints. Got to be honest, I really like Saints fans. I just want to say that to you guys right here, right now. Maybe it's because I love Steve Gleason. Shout out to Steve Gleason and T-Cap. Maybe it's because I've been to tailgates at LSU. And honestly, like, Louisiana people, they kind of adopt you. Like, I think they adopted Ryan Russillo. Like the LSU fan base adopted Ryan Russillo. And so just by association, every time I'm with him, and he'll love hearing this, I feel like I get treated like a king down on the bayou or in T-Town when we went to the greatest tailgate I've ever been to. These people do not fuck around. This is when I think about Saints fans, I think about how big they do it. My son is 5 years old. His name's Luke. And one thing he got from me, not his looks, he got those from his mom. He looks just like his mom. But one thing he does just like me is, ever since I was a little kid, my mom always says that I used to, like, she'd be like, go put an outfit on. And I go put on like the loudest outfit that had all the different expressive thing. I was basically playing fucking dress up. You know, like I wanted tie-dye, I wanted stripes on the bottom, I wanted unique shoes and the whole thing. Saints fans and LSU fans are kind of like my 5-year-old in that way. And I mean in a really good way, is like when they dress up to go out to a football game, it's like the craziest shit goes. And I love that. Everything's tiger print, everything's shiny. If you're at a Saints game, it's like, man, this is like a circus. And although the Superdome does not meet code, and that's probably why I wouldn't want to play in New Orleans, would be like, I'm worried about that thing falling down at some point, although it survived a hurricane for sure. Just like the fans, which is why I love the fans. The fans have been through a hurricane. They've had brown bags on their fucking heads. They keep things in perspective. You know what else I love about them? In the same breath, they're so worked up about a call. They've survived a hurricane, but they're on the Senate floor with a picture of Roby Coleman with his hand around somebody's neck in the NFC Championship. The duality of Saints fans, that's what I love about you guys. You guys have been through shit, you have perspective, but you're also still nuts about football. That stadium would not pass code. I do not rank it highly in my stadium rankings, but I will say this. If it were a bar, it would be a bar with a sticky floor, and we know that's the best kind of bar. So when you get a chance to go to New Orleans and play the Saints, it's a great experience. And we always got oysters after the game, which is awesome. Fried oysters. I feel like, and I've written down here, oysters and escorts. Now, what I mean by escorts is pregame escorts from the police. The police in Louisiana, they just look like people are going to get out of the way on the highway. You know, like they just have that, you know, you go down to some of these states where they got bucket hats on and shit. Like if I was an SEC coach, I need a cop with a bucket hat. I don't know. I don't care if I get to be a Virginia head coach one day. Find me a hat with a cop with a bucket hat. If they don't wear them in this state, make them. I need a fucking hat this tall on the cop escorting me to half court or midfield to shake Dabo's hand after I kick his ass in 2036. Okay. We'll see who's got the bigger cop, the bigger hat. You know, it's like, it's honestly like Game of Thrones where in the SEC, the woman, you know, what's her name? The head honcho lady, she was fucking her brother, but still hot. Cersei. Incredible. You like Cersei? Go back and watch the insufferable movie that is 300. Okay, she was in her prime. Okay, incredible movie in that respect, but in the other ways, not so incredible. Okay, in the SEC, it reminds me of Game of Thrones, where it's like, well, I got the fucking mountain. You know, like you get this little ass lady, and she's got the biggest guy in the kingdom. That's what the SEC is all about. It's about having the biggest cops with the tallest hats. And it's like, let the best coach win. I got all the recruits, and look at this fucking 6'8" guy. He looks like the fucking guy that fought Kimbo Slice in Boston. That's the kind of cop, you know, you need if you're in the SEC. Those are the kind of cops that are now there in Louisiana. And when you get those police escorts to the game, they mean business. Okay. Also, I figure if I play for the Saints, I have written down Harry Connick Jr. house. I think I would go to Harry Connick Jr.'s house. You know? Sounds fucking cool. I don't know anything about the guy. Like, literally don't know a thing about Harry Connick Jr. other than who he is and the fact that people love him. Is he a singer? He's a singer, right?
Singer and an actor.
An actor. Okay, I knew that. But probably got a cool house in New Orleans. I feel like I'd be hanging out with Harry Connick Jr. and I'd be like, oh, this is fucking cool. Instead, when I was in St. Louis, you know what I got to do? Get drunk with Alto Reed till 3 a.m. after a Bob Seger concert.
Hell yeah.
Okay, that was kind of cool in its own right, but then Alto leaves the next day. We just didn't have celebrities like that. The celebrities come and go. I couldn't make friends with a Harry Connick Jr.
Bob Seger was on the sideline for that Detroit game.
Bob Seger, yep, was on there. I read there were a bunch of guys, dude. Jeff Daniels is a big Lions fan. They got some cool fans. Yeah, you know, like you're not going to be a douchebag if you're a Lions fan after all this. Like it's kind of self-selective here. Atlanta, I like you guys. You guys are realistic. I don't think I ever would have thought about playing for you guys. In fact, I did. I went down there and visited. Not that you care. You know, you guys are like the short sell guys in the stock market. You know what's going to happen before it happens. You know it's bad, and you know what you guys like already know your team is going to fuck it up, even though somehow I don't know if you knew the 28-3 thing was going to happen. How do we get here? I have this thing about 28-3, and I feel like if it makes you feel any better, I just wanted to tell you guys, I think that thing's blown out of proportion. I don't think it's that big a deal. It's 3 scores. It's the modern NFL now. Okay, it's 3 scores. It's 28-3, 25 points. Yeah, it is 4 scores. Never mind. It's a big deal. What you guys did was really bad. Okay, so 4 scores. Think about it like this. Let's say Let's say it's 42-17. Doesn't sound as bad, does it? Man, that team was down 42-17, but they found a way to come back. That just doesn't sound as bad. 28-3 just sounds really bad, you know? So whether it's 3 scores, 4 scores, I never added it up. I just put my head down and was like, hopefully Tom Brady takes care of business. But I don't think it's that big of a deal. 28-3, it just sounds bad because you had 3. You know, if it were 56-31, it's like, who cares, dude? That happens all the time in the Big 12. I don't think it's that big of a deal. I just wanted to tell you guys that. I don't know if that makes you guys feel any better. I also want to say this. The overtime rule. Everybody talks about Josh Allen got jobbed by the overtime rule, and he did. But you know who else got fucked? Matt Ryan. You guys haven't led with that one, have you? Hey, you're welcome. I got no problems with you, Atlanta fans. I like you guys a lot. You guys seem like you know when bad shit's going to happen. I think that's valuable. It'd be good to have you around. I think Atlanta Falcons fans got to become like seismologists or do tsunami warnings or fucking, you know, like tell you what your risk factors are for like all types of cancers. Like, you guys know when shit's going to go wrong. I think you guys have an innate ability by watching the Falcons for a long time, and I think that's a really good quality to have. So kudos to you guys. Tampa Bay, I don't know who you guys are, and I don't mean that negatively. I got to tell you, I crossed you off the list because of the shot clock numericals. I would not have played for Tampa legitimately because of the shot clock numericals. There was a time when I was a free agent once or twice, had a couple teams I could go play for. Not saying Tampa called. I'm sure you guys are like, I wouldn't have wanted you anyways, but you couldn't catch me dead in those uniforms. Now, the uniforms have changed since. You guys look pretty good. Listen, you guys dress like pirates. That's like one of the whitest activities you could possibly do. Totally relatable. I love it. I like the pirate ship. It's incredible. Although in Jacksonville, they have a pool. You can't swim in the pirate ship. I bet the dogs in the area don't love the pirate ship, though. You know, you think about those loud noises and stuff like that. You guys ever think about that? I do love when you watch all 22 of y'all's stadium. You guys still park in the grass. Like it's like like it's 1997. I love that. Like, there's not a proper parking lot. I can see it through the stadium. People are still parking in the grass. I love it. But the biggest impediment for me when it comes to Tampa fans, and I'd love to get to know you guys and gals, I don't know who you are. I'm not saying they don't exist. That stadium was rocking, dude, when you kicked the Eagles' asses. Congratulations. That was a thorough ass kicking. I think some Philly fans are appreciative you ended it so fast. But I've never met too many Bucs fans, you know? All right, Carolina, this is one that got away from me. I grew up a Panthers fan, 1995, 96, whenever they came on the scene. You know, the colors, the whole thing, Kevin Green, Dan Morgan, who's now a GM for the Panthers. Incredible, dude. Dan Morgan. One of the scariest people I've ever seen. I remember going to a banquet with my dad when he was at UM. He was getting some award. I guess my dad was giving an award out. I just remember thinking, like, this guy is like, he's a badass. He had that like slick back black hair and shit. You know, he kind of was like No Country for Old Men without the, you know, like with a little less creepy. But he had that thing, dude. And he was like quiet and shit. And he was, you know, the Panthers were hard not to root for, man. They were awesome. In fact, one year, I can't remember what year it was, but I was trying to go to Carolina, and that would have been, I think it was the New England year. I really wanted to go to Carolina in free agency because I grew up a Panthers fan, and I love Charles Johnson, one of my favorite players from my era, and we were boys and, you know, close enough to where I kind of knew what he was doing. If he wasn't going to sign back, I wanted to do it, and he signed back, and the rest is history. So probably better I didn't sign with Carolina. I never flipped you guys off. I got ejected back in the day. You guys all know the story, but there was a picture that Will Brinson posted online that looked like I was flicking him off. I was just IDing the guy who threw a beer bottle at me. I had the Panthers cheerleaders calendar when I was a teenager, and that was a really formative age. I'll just put it that way. And I wonder what those gals are doing today. You know what I mean? NFC East. Dallas. Why did I become a Panthers fan in 1995? I'm going to be honest. I've shared this on this show before. Nolan didn't know it. I was once a Cowboys fan. And do you know why I became a Panthers fan? There's a little too much cocaine for me at 10 years old, 11 years old. Like, you know, which is a little bit curious because I did like Aerosmith. Unbeknownst to me, Steven Tyler spent millions of dollars on cocaine, he said. And he said he snorted like half of Peru. So he's rubbing it in our faces, doing cocaine, drugs through his nose, right? And I'm disowning my favorite football team that all they do is win championships. And I'm doing it. And I still went to an Aerosmith concert like the next summer. I just had no idea Steven Tyler was on so much blow. I didn't know. The only thing I knew about cocaine was that the Cowboys were doing it. That was like my frame of reference. So I gave up on the Cowboys. I'm sorry, guys. And I want to say this. There's no olive branch situation because I don't think I've ever once said I hate the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are necessary. I think the Cowboys are a necessary heel, and I think you sold your soul to the devil or something. Or maybe it was you sold your Herschel Walker to Minnesota, and that's directly what happened, and you got that big run. But like, I think what's crazy about the Cowboys is the 90s are like our formative years, right? Like there's a whole generation of consumers who grew up thinking the Cowboys. That's why the Cowboys are thought of the way they are today, is because they know that if we talk about the Cowboys on TV, a bunch of people that are paying for smart TVs and fucking ESPN packages and all that shit, they grew up watching the Cowboys. That's what I think it is. I mean, like, I know it's not rocket science, but it's so I don't hate the Cowboys. You guys are maybe more chill than people give you credit for. My driver home tonight was a Cowboys fan. I asked him if he thought McCarthy should be fired. He was like, no, I don't think so. I was like, all right. What were your takeaways from the game? He was like, we just didn't play that well. I was like, maybe you guys deserve more credit. Washington, weird meeting when I went there to visit. Never thought, I mean, I did think about playing there because it was 2 hours from my house. You got realistic fans. I love that. When I think about a Washington fan, I think about PFT commenter. Like that is your central casting Washington Commanders fan, formerly known as the Redskins. My wife's roommate, for instance, huge Washington Redskins fan at the time, called them the Foreskins endearingly. She's a Redskins fan. She's calling them the Foreskins. She's going to the game. She said, I'm going to the Foreskins game. Like that's what their fans think about the team. And what's fucked up is if it weren't for Dan Snyder, I think you're in America's team. I really do. If you think about it, you had an offensive line with a nickname, check. You have a cool-ass coach that objectively everybody likes that won multiple championships and did race car stuff. And you're in the nation's capital. Why are you not more popular? I like your fans. You guys are realistic. Giants, I know nothing about you guys. To me, there's no in between. It's like 23-year-old frat kid from Long Island or 46-year-old Italian guy. Everybody has dark hair. That's how I picture all Giants fans. It's a whole city. It's the Big Apple, dude. I can't picture anybody. I don't have any association with the Giants. I respect you guys. I never thought about playing for the Giants. Okay, Seattle, that's on my list. I did think about playing for Seattle. I think what would have been cool about Seattle would have been, and honestly, I've said this before, I was jealous of their setup. I think what's cool about Seattle is all that talk about podcasting earlier and how hard it is. I don't think I'm doing any of it if I played for Seattle. I think I end up Bill Gates' Ndamukong Suh. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying, Matt. Buffett, Warren Buffett, and how rich he is. He's like, I've just taken Ndamukong Suh under my wing. And you just play football. When you get out, you can be even richer than you would have been. Because that's how I think it would have gone. It would have been, and I know some people don't like Bill Gates. Whatever, just insert tech billionaire here. I would have met him. Sparks would have flew, and you'd have never heard from me again. I'd be making fucking widgets or whatever that is. What does a widget mean anyways? It's just an item.
I thought it was some like web thing.
That's what I thought.
designed.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, there we go. I was right. I'd be making widgets, and I wouldn't be doing this bullshit. I also have a theory I want to share with you, Seattle fans, while I'm addressing you. You guys are the best. Like, really, you guys, the 12s are legit. You have fucking nothing but respect for them. I know a lot of this is fucking around, but I do have a theory. What year did marijuana become legal? Like, when did dispensaries open up in Seattle?
December 2012.
Interesting. Very interesting. Do you know when it became a real pain in the ass to go play the Seattle Seahawks?
I'm guessing about 2012.
Circa 2012.
Became
You know
a
what
good
I think?
free agent destination.
No. You know what I think? I think a bunch of guys from states where you had access to Reggie Miller would fly up to Seattle for 2 days usually, because it's a 2-day trip, and get high as a giraffe's ass and not understand what they're getting themselves into. I'm not saying every guy, but some guys show up, they're like, I'm just walking in this store and like, yeah, well, I like to smoke weed at home. Let me see what they're growing out here on the West Coast. And then they're high for 2 days. And then they're dealing with the 12s and Russell Wilson and the LOB. I think people were high. That's my theory. Not taking anything away from you guys, but I think you got a lot of people stoned over that period. It was all about the crowd noise and the team. That's all well and good. I think you had Cheech and Chong scheduled every week, and you didn't even mean to. It just kind of fell that way. Not taking anything away from you guys. 1-7 up in Seattle, okay? But I also played great every time I played in Seattle. No coincidence, okay? The Cardinals. Listen, I've told this story before on the show. I've never had a bad dealing with a Cardinals fan, mostly because I just don't run into them a lot, and that's not a diss. I just I'm not in that part of the country. It's a smaller market, I guess, relative to other teams. Like if you look at like TV markets and that sort of thing. So I'm not throwing shade. I did have one bad interaction in Phoenix that I can't get out of my head. Do you remember Carlos Boozer?
Of course.
Yeah, you guys know the story. Nolan didn't know this story. But long story short, Carlos Boozer is like my Highlander beef as an athlete. Him and JaVale McGee, because JaVale McGee walked right by me. I was like, hey, JaVale McGee. I went to dap him up, and he just basically Euro stepped me, but in a way that he moved his arm over my head. I walked by him at the club, and he put his arm up here and was like, yep, going to the bathroom. And I was like, fuck, man, that felt terrible. But the other time was Carlos Boozer. And although Carlos Boozer looked a lot older than me, was way more accomplished than me when I was 16, 17, I was at U-Hall, the old stadium at Virginia, watching UVA and Duke, and I got some good seats because my buddy had good seats, and we were sitting there, we're hanging over the rafters, and Boozer's walking out, and I'm like, Boozer, you're ugly. Or something like that. And he looked up at me and eye contact, and he's just so fucking big. He was a lot bigger in person and a lot more older than me looking. And
full beard.
Yeah, he had a full beard and shit. And I'm like, God damn, dude, I'm sitting up here in some vineyard vines. Gonna get, I got a belt with whales on it. I didn't really have a belt with whales on it, but some of my friends did. Anyways, fast forward, playing the Cardinals, riding the elevator with a couple of my buddies, kind of just yucking it up. It's Saturday. We play Sunday, and the elevator door opens. It's floor 4, and big-ass dude gets on. He's bald. He's got a beard. He's got a weird release. Anyways, he's a good player, though. Anyways, we ride down the elevator 3 levels to the lobby. Lobby door opens. Carlos Boozer walks off. I guess he's playing the Suns. I walk around the corner. About 90 seconds later, he's yucking it up with some guy on his team, and he's like, and next thing I know, I'm like, what the fuck are they laughing about? They're on the Rams.
Oh, shit.
And I just kept walking. Because I'm like, it's just Boozer. Has nothing to do with Cardinals fans. That's my one memory. My only other memory about going down there and playing the Cardinals is it's an awesome trip in December. when you get off the plane and you play somewhere like St. Louis and you get off that plane and they get you staying in some place, that's the one thing Jeff Fisher was. I love Jeff Fisher because Jeff Fisher would make sure we stayed somewhere nice. We always stayed on some golf course. That's about the only place you can find grass or trees in Phoenix. That's the disorienting part of landing in Phoenix and going to some Phoenix hotel. There's no trees. There's no landmarks. I have no fucking clue where I am. Next thing you know, they put you in a bus and drive you like 40 minutes out in the desert. If I wasn't on a Quicks bus with my teammates, I think I was getting murdered and dumped in a hole. There's a toaster out there, and that's where you play football. And it looks totally fucked up, but when you go in, they cart the grass in from outside. I think it's one of my favorite stadiums to actually play in. It's just a super weird atmosphere. The game day atmosphere is live, though. Cardinals fans, I got no beef. Y'all are cool. Except there was this one guy in the corner of the end zone who was talking shit during D-line Indy one year, and after the game, I ran 70 yards to find him. And then he called me classless. So you know who you are. Guy in the right-hand side corner of the end zone. Nondescript white guy. Had a kid with him that he was cussing me out in front of. Then turned it back on me when I ran over. Not in front of my kid. Please. You're at a Cardinals game. Just joking. Okay. The Rams. I already played for the Rams. The reason I'm skipping the Eagles, the Rams too, I want to apologize to Rams fans first off because I was wrong about your team this year. I mean, like I did not think that – I thought you guys should hit the reset button. I underestimated Matt's health. I underestimated how good he was this year. I don't underestimate Les and I don't underestimate Sean. I think they're awesome. I just might have hit the reset button. But what a year it was. It was awesome. And, I was wrong about you guys. I actually have no beef with y'all. I don't know if you know that or not, but – here's another team I thought about. The Kansas City Chiefs. That's a team I think would have been cool. There's two ways of looking at it. Number one, would have been cool. Number two, wouldn't have been cool. I'll tell you why it would have been cool. Okay? Chiefs fans have it made. I think that whole setup is awesome. You got red and yellow, ketchup and mustard. I love those colors. I love the old stadium. When you play in that stadium, it feels like the Jetsons built it in the past and they were trying to build a stadium that would look futuristic. It's like kind of the architecture of that time. And, like the signage is still original. I love how many cars you see outside the damn stadium. I think it's so cool. What it is to me is I love pictures in the 90s. Like, like I could look at them all day. It looks like it's 1996 when they're having a game. Down to the way that people dress, starter jackets, Zubas, like that stadium's retro. You got Mahomes, you got Reed. Now the chop thing, I want to level with you guys because I'm not here to say the chop should get taken away. That's not for me to decide. I'm not the moral authority on that. It doesn't suck to look at, but you have to admit it kind of sucks. You have to admit it kind of sucks. And this isn't me like, because I'm not trying to moral high ground you here, but imagine that Pakistan was like, yeah, I think I want to live in America. And I don't want to live there with any Americans either. So Pakistan comes over and they just bulldoze us. They're like, hey, here's some blankets. We're going to cover them with anthrax. We're going to engage in a little biological warfare. We're going to run up on your shit and not give it back and then act like we're trying to help you, but we're really not prioritizing you at all throughout the rest of the history of our country, which is now our country. And fast forward 200 years, packed stadium. They're watching cricket in Overland Park. They built a big cricket stadium there. They're doing the wave.
Oh, stop.
200 years from now, doing the wave at a Senators game. The logo's like a fucking white guy or something. Like, how do you're not upset? You don't see how it sucks? It kind of sucks. The wave is something for me that looks cool, or the chop looks cool as shit. Undoubtedly, who doesn't like hearing somebody go, oh, oh, oh. But I just, I'm kind of conflicted on that thing because of the whole Pakistan picture I just painted you. Okay. But the other thing is, the way I could look at it and say, hey, it's a good thing I didn't play for the Chiefs. Can you imagine if I fell to the Chiefs? My life would have been, in a lot of ways, better, right? Same region of the country, we would have won more, the whole thing. Glenn Dorsey was picked by the Chiefs. Hell of a player, Glenn Dorsey. Was on all the awards circuits with him, and we didn't know where we were going to end up. But can you imagine me retiring in 2018, a Kansas City Chief? Like, say I played my whole career in Kansas City and was like, yeah, I'm hanging it up. I'll go do something else. And they're like, we're trading up for Patrick Mahomes. And then I got to watch him win 3 championships. I am so glad I did not play for the Chiefs, because that would have been impossible to watch. Playing 11 years, 12 years in Kansas City, and then watching Patrick Mahomes win all these championships, I would have got off the bus at the wrong time. So it's almost a blessing I didn't play for you guys, but in another life, you guys have an awesome fan base, and that stadium is amazing. And you can tell when I talk about your team, I have a lot of reverence for teams that get there year after year. I just do. I just think it's really cool. The Raiders are another team that I would have definitely liked to have played for. The Oakland Raiders. Now, I love that Vegas stadium, but I'll sum it up for you in one word or one sentence. Is Raider fans, I'll give you an example. One time, my dad almost got in a fight in the parking lot with a Raiders fan, which is like, imagine going to the game at the Coliseum and be like, what are you up to today? I'm going to go up to the Coliseum and then get my ass kicked by Howie Long after the game. He's going to walk out of the stadium and beat my ever-loving ass in the parking lot. It's going to be the full game experience. So the guy, my dad doesn't look for trouble, but hey, if trouble finds my dad, he's going to take care of the trouble. And I guess I was a wee lad, and somebody came looking for trouble, and my dad. Raiders fans are aggressive enough to try to fight Howie Long in the parking lot, but in the same hand, they're trustworthy enough that my dad found one immediately that was willing to stand with me in case it went down. So the juxtaposition of those two fans is like, it's all in there, but they're fearless and aggressive enough to try to fight Howie Long in the parking lot, but trustworthy enough that if Howie Long needs to drop his kid with a total stranger, he felt like he trusted this guy behind the. This is also the 80s or the early 90s. Like, things were different. Like, we played outside. There was an unmarked van, but other than that, like, you weren't getting like scooped up or nothing. Like, it's totally different now. So, also the first time I ever smelled the black hole, gas. Just smelled like gas, dude. And they had drop ceilings in their facility. When I went and visited there, the closest I ever went to playing there was in the draft. It was Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin was the coach. They got 8-foot drop ceilings, like, drop ceilings in the offices. Okay, like this is like modern NFL. They're walking me through the thing. They were like, hey, Lane, Chris Long's here. You want to meet the guy who's visiting? His top 5 pick, possibly. We might draft him. And maybe Lane wasn't interested at all, but also Lane's just Lane. Lane comes up. He's like, good to meet you. He goes, look good. We'll take you. And then he walks away. That was my experience with the Raiders. I don't know what they were, Lastly, I want to say the Broncos are on my watch list here, Reed. The Broncos are on my watch list.
You would have looked good in orange and blue at Mile High.
Well, here's what I like about the Broncos, Reed. Number one, I love the city of Denver. Okay? Fucking, you got me. I like
sunshine.
Denver. Shocker.
Sunshine.
300 days of sunshine, legal marijuana, fucking bunch of crunchy-ass people. Huge outdoor stores that I can go in and buy useless shit like some Kavu bag or like a fucking, like another Patagonia hat.
All the REI gear yeah, anything you can think of.
They have an REI there that you can like ride your bicycle around. Like,
you want a tent for your dog? No problem.
You got it. Okay. But here's what's cool about Denver. You guys literally, South Park, that's the coolest thing that you guys are like a theme in South Park,
100%.
It could have been any team. It could have been any town. It had to be the Broncos, I guess. But like, it is hilarious to me that you guys own that piece of pop culture, and so I love that about the Broncos. Another thing, my question to Broncos fans is: are you aware that horse that's 40 feet tall outside your stadium has a penis, a big dick, and do you ever think about what they were thinking when they were like, should we put a dick on this horse? Like,
I want to know who made that executive decision.
I don't think it's I don't
Who
think it's
checked that box.
I think they were just like, realism, Peter. It's got to be real. And in fact, I need the dick to scale. Okay, the horse is 36 feet tall. I need the dick to be at least 4 to 5 feet tall. And so if somebody's, they're working on this thing like the Statue of Liberty, and, there's a guy assigned to making this. Look at another statue of a horse outside a stadium. Find me another horse with a dick outside a stadium. Dick and balls. Look at this horse. You bet you never saw the balls, have you, Reed?
No. I didn't know they added the balls. As much as you like the Broncos,
you didn't know the giant Broncos horse
had balls and
27 feet tall, right? Or is that the airport Bronco? At least at the airport, they had the decency not to give it a massive cock. Look at this picture where they're erecting this horse for the first time. The thing's got a piece. Are you dumbfounded by this at all? That they were like, yeah, let's put a dick on this horse.
100%, because it's a family. It's football. You got kids walking by there, and what are they going to ask? They're going to ask questions. And
is that horse excited?
Yeah,
yeah. The Broncos scored a touchdown.
Is that horse happy to see me?
The horse is always excited. The Dolphins. I just want to say this, Dolphins fans, like, it would have been cool to play for the Dolphins, and honestly, I'm excited to root for you guys in 24. I just want to say this, like, if y'all have me, I'd love to jump on the bandwagon, seeing as I didn't really say anything that wasn't true. Like, I want to root for the Dolphins, man. I like your colors, talking about a franchise that it'd be awesome to see you guys win a Super Bowl where I don't have to get a tattoo as a result, but it would be awesome. You talking about franchises with pop culture real estate. How many movies primarily feature any other NFL team? I mean, the Little Giants and, like Cowboys, but those are the Little Giants. We got Dan Marino and the Dolphins in Ace Ventura. Like, it's a real thing. And I thought that was really cool, like growing up, to see the Dolphins and Snowflake and everything you guys got going on down there featured in a motion picture. I would love to be with you guys in 24. This is your mission if you choose to accept it. Allow Chris Long to root for the Dolphins in 2024. You guys are going to hate me. You thought you hated me in 23? If Kirk Cousins goes down there, I'm getting a Kirk Cousins Miami Dolphins jersey. I'll wear it on the podcast. I really would like to see you guys win. I cheered so fucking loud during the Miami Miracle. It was insane. All right? Love Chad Pennington, Ricky Williams, obviously, Vonnie Holiday. You want me to just start naming Dolphins? Randy McMichael, Chambers, Incognito. While I'm at it, you had the guy from Stanford, the offensive tackle. This is the way my brain works. It went from Richie to him. All right. Lastly, Jacksonville Jaguars. I just feel this magnetism. Like, I really do. I've been trying to get my kid to be a Jags fan and not a Dolphins fan, ironically, for the better part of a year. I just think Jacksonville and I would have got along swimmingly. Like, I really think I would have done fine in that city. It's a small market team, a lot like St. Louis in some ways. And the best part about the city, not a lot of people. Huge city, not a lot of people. Like playing Grand Theft Auto. It's just an open map with no crime. Like, you go
was swimmingly a pun?
Well, yeah, because there's a fucking pool in there. It wasn't a pun, but it's true. We would have gotten along swimmingly.
You've talked a lot about the pee in the pool. Would you have gone in the pool if you had played in Jacksonville?
After every game. When I say I want to be a part of Jacksonville, like Arden Key was a part of Jacksonville. I want to be a part of Jacksonville. I want to really get in the pool with Jacksonville. I don't want to be about it. I want to get in the pool with y'all. Thanks for being on today. It's pretty late, so we're going to go to bed, and we'll catch you on Friday for the previews.